Brave New World's out, and it's doing well, actually. Already, if you look at international and here, $192.4 million. Now, if you believe what they said, and there's $188 million, they made their money back. Well, that's before advertising, $92.4 million domestically right here. Start over the weekend. Now, I still will say, there was that whole thing, IMDb came forward, all the trades, Deadline, Hollywood Reporter, and they actually said that they spent $40 million on this, and they reverted and said, no, it's 188 now, which to me, I'm still kind of skeptical about that. But if that's true, it's looking to actually make money, barely. Now, I will still say it's still branching into that Quantum Mania phase. You guys know how that hurts me, as I did work for Paul Rudd. It still bums me out, guys, because I'm like, please, why is there no love for Quantum Mania? I know people hate it. Why is there no love? I just want the residuals. I love the movie. There's great people there at Marvel. And I got to tell you this, too. I was excited about this movie. I still think that it felt like a long everybody say online, like a long episode of Winter Falcon or of Falcon Winter Soldier. Can I get it right, guys? Give myself a womp womp right there. But, it's fun. Harrison Ford steals the show. I will say that to everybody. Harrison Ford is acting his ass off. He could have stepped in there, collect a paycheck. He didn't. I still think what he brought to the table was amazing. I love Anthony Mackie, guys. I do love him, but I still have a hard time of this dynamic. They're still making the jokes, making the jokes about, like, I can't, people don't think I should be Captain America. I think we need to just get rid of that. Get rid of that. Just be like, you're Captain America. Move on. We still have the rumors about, again, Chris Evans still coming in to be either Captain America or Nomad or maybe he's going to be like some other alternate universe version. I don't know. We'll find out. But I'm excited to talk about this on the panel today. So let's go on over to everybody and talk about Brave New World, guys. I'm going to go to Paul first because I know that Paul's done a lot of breakdowns on this. And then I'm going to let Paul and Sean fucking fight it out here. And
can I determine the winner?
Determine the winner of the Marvel face-off? I don't know. But Paul, let's talk about this for a second. I know you did the whole breakdown. We're talking about the ending, what they've been setting up, what they're going for. How do you feel the overall? Can this be something do you think that Marvel thought this is going to launch it forward to actually be something bigger than it is? Or is this just going to be that in-between movie they want to do a filler space and that's it? And we're never going to see another Anthony Mackie kind of standoff wonder again?
No, I think we will. I think Marvel's just hit a point where they've got so many dangling things in the air, I think there's 14 post-credit scenes that haven't paid off yet. And they only have a certain amount of characters available at the moment. You can't just produce a movie every single month. So they're kind of like, well, we need to make a Captain America movie or an Ant-Man movie, but we've also got to introduce Kang, or we've got to set up things with the Red Hulk. So I think they're kind of having to Frankenstein these characters together to fight each other in stories that don't necessarily work with the characters that they're facing off against. Kang has never been an Ant-Man villain, and Red Hulk's never been a Captain America, especially a Sam Wilson Captain America villain. But they're like, we have to tell these stories. So it's difficult because normally when you have a good villain story, it's because they reflect the hero. The Joker is the embodiment of chaos, and Batman's the embodiment of order. You don't necessarily get that kind of juxtaposition with someone like Ant-Man and Kang. It's just they're just fighting each other. So I feel like because of that as well, people aren't as excited for these films because it's not like, say, a Civil War where it's like, oh, we're seeing these heroes fight, or I don't know, Thanos versus Iron Man. That's quite a big thing. And then when you're trying to sell it like, oh, well, that's Captain America versus Red Hulk, and it's a sequel to the Incredible Hulk that people didn't necessarily love that much, and it's also a sequel to the Eternals and a sequel to Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So they're all kind of they're being forced to tell these stories that they necessarily wouldn't tell if they weren't all structured into this film, into this cohesive universe where they've got to pay off certain stories and only have a certain amount of characters and actors still playing these parts.
That was the weirdest thing to me. It's you're tying in the Edward Norton franchise along with this, but we're still recasting
Eternals, what are you doing? Yeah.
What do we? Yeah, I'm what do we? You guys are trying to think we forgot about all that stuff. That's what it feels like to me. It's oh yeah, these are all. This is fine, guys. And then you have Liv Tyler coming in at the end too to have that little cameo. But you don't see her face. She's still very far back. I'm why are you this far back, Liv Tyler? But it's just to me. It just felt like a mishmash of a lot of things that didn't really make sense to be there together. It just didn't. It still was a good movie.
It should have been a Hulk movie. It should have been a Hulk movie, and I don't know why it wasn't.
You think they're just trying? It could be a rights thing too. It could be a rights thing.
Yeah, it was absolutely a rights thing. Yeah.
And that's what it feels like. It feels like a rights thing. And I'm like, guys, I get it. Like, you have to
past that shit. Yeah.
I thought we were too. I just really thought it'd be better.
But how do they have the rights to the Incredible Hulk characters, but not the Hulk itself? I don't know. But even then, though, but why do you have to tell this story in general? Like, when William Hurt passed away, I don't know if anyone was necessarily, like, as good as Harrison Ford is, I don't know if anyone was necessarily like, oh, well, they still have to pay off the Red Hulk story. They still have to do it. Because you're not even in Thunderbolts, from what we know about it. And Thunderbolt Ross is like, even when they were mentioning his nickname, I'm like, well, why isn't this tied into the Thunderbolts at all? And it just kind of feels like they've taken characters and mashed them together without necessarily understanding why certain characters are paired off against certain other characters.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And then they have Edward Norton, but then maybe they don't want to change the whole thing with Hulk because you have like Smart Hulk now, and it's like they don't want to pull him in there. They don't want to be like I don't know. To me, it just felt like there were so many cooks in the kitchen, and the massive reshoots, and then they put Giancarlo Esposito in here. I could tell like that was all reshoots, and it's like that was a big part of like making an actual like assassin coming in and adding to the story. I don't know. I feel like they didn't know what they wanted from this movie. That's just to me, and I wanted to see more. But I love Harrison Ford coming in.
That's why I question the budget reports, because every time I get told that they're like, well, no, it was 180 million because that's what they said. I'm like, but common sense tells me that they reshot a third of the movie, and I don't know if that would necessarily, especially with a company like Disney who are known for spending a lot on films. Like, how much was Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny? I think it was in the 300 million range. Yeah,
I think it was like 324 or something like that. It was a lot of money. It was like the big flop for them too, which is very unfortunate. But again, Harrison Ford's like, he's like, I had fun, I'd do it again, which of course he would.
Yeah, paid lots of money.
Yeah, pay lots of money. You have to bring Mangold too. Great director.
Yeah, he's been very upfront about like, I'm doing it for the money at this point. And that's fine. Like I think honesty is a nice shade for him to wear. That's fine.
Get in there, Sean. Throw some shade at Captain America. Give us some love. What do you think?
I'm not trying to throw shade. I'm just going to give a couple of things here, especially with what you just said, Paul. Like, yes, this is a lot of loose threads trying to get in there. You got a little bit more of the understanding of Incredible Hulk does have ramifications for the MCU. You kind of had this really weird character, although you didn't call him the leader for some fucking reason. That was really strange. He was looking like a Unabomber 1 second, and then like a moldy little broccoli head guy. That was very inconsistent for me. But they referenced the Eternals without saying anything about the Eternals. The only point of the fact that you got a giant head in the sky and giant hand in the sky is because in this world, people would be talking, the world outside is what's supposed to be Marvel, right? If that shit was in our world, fucking hell, we'd be talking about it every single day. The only real point I feel like all this movie did was just kind of kick the can down and be like, things are coming, guys. Just stay with us a little bit longer. And I love Isaiah Bradley's the usage of him. I really want them to actually do like a proper telling of Captain America Truth. It's one of my favorite stories. Should be one of your favorite stories. But there's just so many threads they just kind of like had to pick up and play with in such a weird way. And you could tell it was just, I love the analogy there. It was like taking two action figures and making them kiss and then also fight. I didn't get it. I didn't get a lot of it. And I like Anthony Mackie. I thought he did a fine job with what he was given, but it was very apparent to me that there's at least 2 or 3 really like big set pieces that got obviously cut and reshot into this movie. That whole post-credit scene felt like it was so out of place. It could have been teasing Thanos coming in. It could have been teasing anybody. Other shit. Yeah, like the other guys. All right, and then he just goes, "What?" Like it just was very low effort kind of reshoots done. The motivations of Samuel Stearns at the end turning himself in. Sorry for spoilers, but you know what the show you're looking at.
If you watch this, we will spoil. That's the name of the episode, Sean.
But there was a lot. I liked the movie. It was okay. And I think Marvel should be happy with okay at this stage, especially for what they did in terms of the amount of reshoots, cutting the entire Serpent Society thing and Seth Rollins and all that they were doing out there. I want to know what that original plan was. Of course it was, because it could have been a huge thing. And then, God bless him, Giancarlo Esposito, that made no sense. You were MacGuffin Man. You were, do you know the MacGuffin Man? Get that on a t-shirt.
You know MacGuffin Man? The MacGuffin Man.
The whole point of Captain America, Brave New World was we got to talk about adamantium because that's going to get everyone's Marvel mutant boners up. We got to do that. We got to subtly introduce Sabra.
Like that.
It doesn't really matter. And then kind of we sort of have to retcon the fact that Incredible Hulk, although it probably wasn't great, everyone knows what happened there in that movie. It still should be considered part of this franchise.
Yeah.
One thing you mentioned earlier about too, like why haven't we gotten just a Hulk movie in a long time? It is a rights thing. There's a really good book.
Universal is a big thing. Universal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's MCU: The Rise of Marvel Studios. It explains a lot about the right issues. I really loved reading it, but the whole thing about the Hulk and Spider-Man are still treated very precariously, right? You can mention it, but you can't show it. You can't if you show Tom Holland's face, that counts as one of his things, and Sony has to get a cut of that. It's the same thing for Hulk. Hulk legally could not be in a movie for more than 51% of it. Otherwise, it had to be a teamed as a Hulk thing, and then that would discount one of the uses that Marvel had for free or whatever. So it's very stupid, very litigious.
Ragnarok or something.
Exactly. Like Ragnarok was a Thor Hulk movie, and I think they did really well.
The combination is what does it. That's
someone who just spent the last 48 hours at a hockey tournament, and some of that had some downtime while I was watching an FX marathon of Marvel movies. Got to see Civil War again, got to see Thor: Love and Thunder again, and you could kind of tell where the ship started to go downhill. So
they're trying. They're trying to keep it going.
There's a lot of things to like about this movie too, right? I still, again, I like the fact that he wrestled with the super soldier serum again. I understand that. The Bucky scene was great. I think it still kind of showed me that those two characters can still play together, and I hope that they have the opportunity to do that for the Congressman James Buchanan Barnes thing kind of threw me. I was like, you leave him on a shrimp boat in one season, going to find himself, then all of a sudden, I got to be a congressman. I didn't understand that one either.
I think my problem with Marvel is that they just aren't learning from their criticisms. Yeah. So, how many times are they being told, look, you've got a weak villain, messy third act, bad CGI, and it's still happening. And it's like, oh, come on. You guys know this by now.
I think they're taking the wrong lessons from their successes as well, right? Yes, RDJ as Dr. Doom is very exciting. That doesn't mean I want to see Chris Evans as Captain America again. It doesn't mean you had to bring back these characters that had a very satisfying end to their arc. And I appreciate for what they were, and you need to be able to tell new stories. And I think they're trying to relaunch it. They're trying to do the thing because comics, God knows that they try things with new characters, it doesn't work, and people want to feel familiar, and you see a Chris Evans Captain America on a shelf next to a Sam Wilson Captain America, and by golly, they might be pushing the Sam Wilson, but everyone knows Captain America as Steve Rogers. So it's tough.
That's a GR. I know you're not. Tell Paul why you don't like Captain America.
Well, I like the Steve Rogers Captain America. The wannabe Captain America is not that's not Captain America to me. I'm old school.
Falcon's not good for you, huh?
No, Falcon is Falcon. He's not Captain America.
I can't say I'm super stoked about this film necessarily. Kind of like the question I asked you about with the MCU, right? Kind of what needs to be fixed with it and stuff. You kind of touched upon all that, right? So I think it kind of bleeds into some of this here with this Brave New World thing. I'm not as versed in all this as you. I'm way more back here with it, but
she worked for TMZ before, so she's got that world going for her.
Yeah, I was in that world, so I'm certain you're familiar, Paul. But yeah, I don't know. You touched on a lot of great stuff. I think my questions for Paul were a little bit unrelated to the whole Brave New World thing, but I can always shoot you a DM. But yeah,
All right, Paul.
I'm not that interested in like this movie. To be totally honest, I'm kind of like backseating it a little bit.
Before we move on, Paul, give your people the pitch out there. Should they watch Captain America: Brave New World or not?
That's a good question.
Yeah, go see it. I thought it was fine. I mean, there's nothing else out of the cinema at the moment. Bridget Jones actually outgrossed it in the UK, so if you like Bridget Jones, go see it.
I do. I actually do like Bridget Jones. I'd probably honestly, I would probably go watch that over this, but that's just me. So, like,
that's amazing. Well, Brave New World's out there, everybody. It's out there. It's President's Day weekend. Check it out right now. Get out there and see Captain America. Get back out there and save the world, guys.
Yo, player, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when we are live. And if you are able to join our Patreon, please join. Because the Pepestar needs more snickety snacks. Because I'm hungry. Holla back. Love y'all.